question and 1 minute each for responses and rebuttals.
So far,
And
we're
additional
still
follow-up clarification or response
we're still
is at the moderator's discretion.
still doing good on Twitch here.
Okay. It's still like the volume is still very low.
Yeah, hang on. Let me fix it. Hang on.
Okay. Yeah, just letting you know.
It will be difficult to understand for viewers at home. At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes for closing statements. There is no studio audience tonight.
All right, let me see what I can do here. I don't know if I can. All right, hang on. Let me. Oh, you know what? I forgot. Here. I think I found out the problem here. Volume mixer. All right, I need to fix the Chrome. Here we go. How's that? Is that a little better?
Yes. Oh.
Is that louder?
I don't think so, man.
Really?
Yeah. I hope it's just a me thing. Oh,
Steve,
God.
are you hearing it okay?
Fifth President of the United States, Donald Trump.
All right, hang on. Let me.
Oh, man, they're both.
Oh, boy.
This is like taxidermy politics. Like they're both dead. They're just like reanimated.
With the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then
it's getting better.
now cost
Is it better? Okay.
Yeah, it's better.
Typical home prices have jumped more than 30%.
Steven, can you hear it okay?
What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President
Oh, God.
How's that? How's that?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Whoa. Is this like an HD? Because
yeah, unfortunately it is, man. Like the volume's better, but Joe Biden does not look okay.
Volume better, but Joe Biden looks a lot worse.
And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs.
I know there's only like a 3-year difference, but why is it that Donald Trump doesn't look like he's aged since 2016?
It's because like that's how much like that's not his real skin tone. Like there's nothing that's indicative about Donald Trump's presentation.
Yeah,
I think that's why.
That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure
I almost like fell into like the orange man bad commentary. I wasn't going to do that.
Orange man bad.
We're going to make sure we cap rent so corporate greed can't take over. The combination
That's all manufactured.
of left within corporate greed is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people.
What if I make it full
to
screen?
$15 for
I don't know if that's
an
gonna do any
insulin
better.
shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to
I'm
pay
so
more than
sorry. I'm just making
$200
sure that
for
like
any drug, all the drugs they can.
I don't get
It's
like
awesome.
I don't
The
get like
situation is making- we're gonna
dinged
make
here
that
for
available
like
to
a
everybody,
copyright
to all
deal, but
Americans.
so far we're
So
hanging
we're
in.
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
bring down the price around the
Oh, for
kitchen
sure.
table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you, President Trump.
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID, and when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit
True,
for,
Stephen.
and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID
Didn't want to spend
mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce back jobs, a bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you, President Biden.
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he's the greatest economy
We're
in the
throwing
world.
shots now.
And, the fact of the matter is that we found ourselves
So which
in a
grandpa do you
situation
guys think
where
American people should vote for?
his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant. And the military, you know, when he was president, there were still 40 people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about
David,
it.
are you all right there?
When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have any, this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
Am I allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce-back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No. He inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months.
Just let me know if I need to adjust any the volume to the viewers.
A bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and
the debate is still pretty low.
Probably the worst administration
What's
in
that,
history.
Dave?
There's never been. And
Oh, the CNN stream is still pretty low.
I was getting
Really?
out of
Okay, hang on.
Afghanistan.
Let me
We were
fucking-
getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt. So far, President Biden has approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax
Donald Trump is really trying hard not to repeat mistakes from that disastrous October debate. Remember, like, he came out super hard and like he was like super histrionic, and you liked it. He's being so like moderate now, like moderated, and especially compared to like his like recent like campaign performances, he's like very measured.
We took in more revenue with much.
I think he had so much like debate coaching when it comes to like
he's not like he's not chimping out right now. Well, it's still early.
Yeah.
We don't know yet.
We'll see.
Yeah, we're gonna. Yeah, the night is still young, folks.
We'll see if he starts gesticulating like Mussolini.
Nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it.
Yeah.
More people
Streaming
died
it right
under
now.
his administration than our administration, and we were
Thanks,
right in
buddy.
the middle of it.
Yep.
Something which a lot of people don't like to talk about.
That was my neighbor.
But he had far more
Oh, I
people
thought you were saying thanks to
in
me. I'm
his
like,
administration.
Oh no, thanks. No, thank you too.
yeah. Well, you're welcome to everybody who's tuning in.
Vaccine, which is the thing that people most
Oh man,
to about the vaccine.
Joe Biden is like
And he did a
really
very poor
nailing
job,
his
just a very
Tucker
poor
Carlson
job.
impersonation.
And I will tell
You know?
you, not only poor
Yeah,
there,
look at
but
it. Get
throughout
out of
the
here. You
world,
fucking
we're no
serious with
longer
this shit.
respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation. And it's a shame.
I love it when the fascist calls other people fascists.
And I'd love to ask
Yeah, it's
him,
quite the
Will,
projection,
why
right?
he allowed
Weaponization.
millions of people to come in here from
Lock her
prisons,
up,
jails, and
lock her
mental
up,
institutions,
put her in
to
jail.
come into our country
Weaponization
and
of
destroy our country.
people's
President Trump, we will
politics.
get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, he got $2 trillion tax cut, benefited the very wealthy. what I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000.
Jody says hi, by the way, David.
Billionaires.
Oh, yo, hey, Jody, how's it going?
Happening?
She's
They're in a situation where they
she's
8.2%.
she's taking this time during the debate to watch something completely different.
25%, either one of those numbers.
That's like the best way
$500 million
Yeah, she's probably
to
got the right
experience this
idea.
debate.
In a 10-year period.
Yeah.
We'd be able to wipe out his
That's
debt.
pretty
We'd be
interesting
able
so
to
far,
help
though.
Make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with.
Am I noticing that like there is this extreme like break between like how these two are speaking?
Everything we have to do with.
Like Trump's looking at him like, "You're gonna finish what you're saying, buddy."
We finally beat Medicare.
Yeah, they just kind of both taper off until like.
Well, he's right. He did
Oblivion.
beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security.
Whose party doesn't want to lift like income cap on Social Security again?
So he was right.
Well, they're expecting the average viewer not to look into that.
What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed.
Like, what is like the cap? Like
I'm friends with
anything over like $150,000 doesn't like contribute to Social Security or something.
Yeah, something like that.
They don't like us.
Like conservative
we give
shit.
them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential
Not
election
like Joe Biden didn't just give the GOP everything they wanted with the immigration bill.
Yeah.
And they still like villainized him for it.
Oh yeah, but they don't care. Like,
to continue in Idaho, despite that
you can't
state's
tell yourself as a
restrictive ban.
Trump light.
Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion bill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. Everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade.
Thanks for the new follows, everybody. I knew I was going to get some new viewers here through all this.
Wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe
But he
that.
still wants to crack down on states that he considers to be Marxist.
And the
I know.
of the mother. I think it's very important.
And he's doing it in a sense with like abortion.
Because that has to do with other things.
Yep.
You got to get elected. The problem
States that I like are very nice. A lot of people live in there. A lot of
take
people.
The life of a child.
The states I don't like, you don't have states' rights.
Even after birth. After birth, if you look at the
and in the
former
military.
governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided, supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, have your and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different role.
Okay, I like what he did
Look,
there.
There's so many young women,
got him.
including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them on their state line.
Thank you.
No.
There have been many young women murdered.
No, what was that?
He allows to come.
What was that?
Border. We have a border that's
You know the guy's the
dangerous
meme when you have
place
like a great
anywhere in the
comeback,
world,
but you
considered
stutter
the
and it
most
shows like the
dangerous place anywhere in the
AK-47
world.
with the clip
And he
unloading.
opened it up, and these killers
Yeah,
are coming
yeah.
in.
And now it looks like Tucker Carlson again.
And killing women, and it's a terrible thing. As far as the
Damn it,
abortion
because this is really who we like chose to be like our champion against fascism. God damn it.
Fuck, man.
Frankly, a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting.
He needed to give him like another shot of whatever.
Which is what everybody wanted,
Oh,
including
man.
the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have. Everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back.
I'm supporting
Everybody wanted it brought back.
the presidency should just be decided by a fist fight.
I was the one to do it, and again,
Oh
this
no!
gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it.
I feel
Every
like the
legal
fascists
scholar
would definitely
wanted it
win
that
that.
way.
Staying on the
You
topic
know what
of
that-
abortion, President Biden, 7 states.
I think Biden's
I'll let you
best
do
chance
this
is to like
same topic.
compare
7
his
states
record to Donald
have
Trump's
no
and
legal
compare like
restrictions on
what they
how far
want to
into
do
a
against each other.
pregnancy A woman
Yeah.
can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can
Oh, God.
take the life of the baby in the 9th month
Let my mouth
and
hang.
even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the
Okay,
baby
that was
down,
fucking
they would
stupid
decide
what you
what
just
to do
said,
with
that
it.
they killed the baby
he's-
after birth.
he's
What?
willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month
The-
and kill the baby.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Nobody
The
wants
one thing
that.
I can hope,
Democrat,
the one thing I can hope for is that
Republican, nobody wants
people
it to
look
happen.
at Trump and what he just said and they go like, "That is
Simply not
absolutely
true.
fucking insane."
The Roe v. Wade
You just got to
does not
respond with like,
provide
what
for
about
that.
the women
That's
who
not the
died because they
circumstance.
weren't
Only if a
an
woman's life is
abortion?
in danger,
Yeah.
she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you
Hey,
want.
can we be
depending
fair
on
that
the
all
state. You
late-term
can do whatever
abortions
you
are
want.
there is
We
some
don't
type
think
of
that's a good
medical
thing. We think it's a
necessity
radical
involved,
thing.
like
We
either
think
the
the
life of
Democrats are
the
radicals, not the
parent
Republicans.
For 51
or the
years,
fetus
that was the
is
law.
at
51
jeopardy
years,
here,
constitutional
and that's
scholarship
why it's
said it was the
performed.
right way to
It's
go.
never because
51 years,
somebody
it
has a
was taken away
last-minute
because this
decision
guy
to like, I don't
took
want to
two
have a
very
baby.
conservative
Like,
members on the Supreme
Yeah,
Court.
yeah.
Takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do? In fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a
Just say
universal
Republicans.
ban
Stop saying
on abortion, period, across the board, at 6
Just
weeks
calm.
or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
wait.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President
Trump
Biden
wanted to
arrested
talk,
but
a
they
number
couldn't
of
fucking
migrants
talk.
have illegally crossed
Too
the southern
bad,
border on
bitch.
your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security
It's really
concerns.
awkward that it's just
Given
those
that,
four in
why
such a
should
large
voters trust
area.
you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the
All
number.
right, we're talking about
of
immigration now and border security, where
Patrol
you're
endorsed
not
me,
gonna
endorsed
see
my
very much
position.
of a difference
In
between these
addition to
two.
that, we found ourselves in a situation where, when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not.
If everybody's like freaking
what
out
I've
on
done
like
since I've changed the law,
the change in
what's
like
happened.
the
I've
video
changed it in a
is
way
I
that
just want to
now
avoid like
you're in
any
a situation
strikes from
where
CNN
there are
for like
40%
streaming
fewer
this. So I
people
hope you
coming
guys
across the
can
border
bear with
legally.
me.
It's better than when he left office, and I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence.
Oh, God, no.
What he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are.
This is what happens
prisons,
when you try to move right on border
that
security.
are from mental institutions, insane
Yeah.
asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now. All terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world. They're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had,
All right, to be fair,
according to
he was
Border
able to
Patrol,
close
who
the
was
border due
great.
to
And by the
like
way, who
COVID
endorsed
being
me
a
for
national
president, but I
emergency,
won't
so he
say
had
that.
emergency
He
powers.
endorsed me for
So.
president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border
Did you just
in
call him
history.
Brandon?
Now we have the worst border in history.
Yeah,
There's never been anything
our
like
Brandon.
it. And people are dying all over the place,
I
including
just
the people that are
need
coming up
like
in
Thank you,
caravan.
Biden's
Trump.
eyes to
President
glaze
Biden?
over
The only
black and for
terrorist
dark
who's
Brandon
done
to
anything across
emerge.
the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in and his administration,
Oh,
killed
God.
three American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support
No,
what you
Silverwing,
say. Once again,
you're
he's
not.
exaggerating,
I
he's
did not
lying.
understand what the fuck he said
President
either.
Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're
I
going to
think he
carry
said
out,
that
quote,
like
the largest
American soldiers
domestic
were killed by
deportation
terrorists under
operation in
Trump's
American
watch.
history,
They
unquote.
weren't killed
Does
under
that mean
his
that you will
watch. That
deport
hasn't
every
happened.
undocumented immigrant in
I
America,
guess nice
including
pivot.
those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed three people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the two greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union because we don't have borders anymore.
Just want to say
every
that
state
crime
is now a border.
down,
And because of
has
his
been going
ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these three incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened
Joe
borders.
Biden, the barbarian.
Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out.
You laughing at me over there?
Because they're going to destroy our country.
No, it's funny.
No,
G.I. Joe. That's
my
we
wife.
don't, he's,
My wife
it's
thought it
we
was
should
like
call him
funny.
either Joe the Barbarian or G.I.
Our
Joe.
veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans.
We need
He
to
doesn't-
get
he
off
doesn't
of
like the
immigration
military
because
at
this
all.
is not
And he
the
doesn't care
strong
about our
point
veterans.
here.
Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things
Guys, I'm
I
gonna
approved,
really be honest
they
right now. This is
abandoned.
not.
We had by
I don't
far the
like how this
highest,
is
and now
going.
it's down in less than half because he's done all
Because
these
that's what our
great things
active
that we
military
did,
needs
and I
is like
think
an
he did it just
expansion of
because
like,
I
you know,
approved
regional
it, which
conflict
is
into
crazy.
Iran.
But he has killed so many people at our border.
Which is like
by
something that
allowing
Donald
all
Trump
of
has
these
like
people to come
decisively
in.
signaled
President
over and
Biden.
over again that he's willing to
Day in
do.
President Biden,
Not only
you
just
have
because like he
Every single thing he
assassinated
says is
Soleimani,
wrong.
like he already took
Every
credit
single
for,
one.
which is like
For example,
clearly like
veterans
an
with health
escalation, an act of
benefits
war.
that passed the
Like
point.
somebody who
I
cares
know.
about like
1
veterans
million
and like,
of
you know,
them now
their
have
longevity
insurance,
is
and their
not going
families
to be
have it.
that instant.
Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And he opposed, his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son
I
spent
really-
a year in Iraq.
not to sound not to sound too queer on this, but I really want to fire Biden's makeup team.
France for D-Day, and I spoke about those.
The fact that like I'm saying that, and because Trump literally just looks like Trump right now. It's like it's just, but Biden, I feel like.
And he told me
there has been a like extreme decline. Whoa! Holy shit! Holy shit! He's like grinding his teeth at him like you're a fucking sucker.
Suckers and losers.
Yeah. I'm like looking at Biden. I'm expecting like Poe Dameron to pop in and say like somehow Palpatine survived. Like
we notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals,
I want to remind people that during COVID,
we have 19
Trump did not let an aircraft, or was a Navy ship, get medical care because he didn't want COVID to spread and troops suffered as a result.
Just like the new thing where the 16 economists are talking, it's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't.
Are we still on the fucking laptop?
Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
The 4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything.
Biden is much more focused when he's pissed off. I feel like he just needs to get angry.
American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right. Thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Immigration. Thank God we're moving away from
Ukraine,
that.
Which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll
I guarantee you the two main focus on foreign policy is going to be Ukraine and Israel.
It is already claimed, and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers.
No, we're not talking about this. Come on, answer the fucking question. You son of a bitch, you don't want to say that you like Putin's cock, so now you want to talk about the veterans with him.
They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just
Stop laughing at me over there.
And that's based on...
No, I'm not laughing at
you. No, and my wife is laughing at me as I'm yelling at the TV.
If we had a real
that's still me.
that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people.
Oh, what's Biden looking at?
I love that face. Like, this fucking serious.
There's like a cat.
He's like, look at it. Oh, look at the kitty run. Look at the kitty run across there.
Yeah.
Look at Mr. Jingles run across there.
I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan.
He's like seeing like Christina Aguilera bug from South Park.
Most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. That when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned, and so he's got no love lost. But he should have fired those generals. No general.
Fuck you.
That was poor Biden.
The most embarrassing moment.
So the question was, do you accept Putin's peace agreement?
We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind, too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think
there should have been a stipulation where you could just cut the mic if the candidate is talking about absolutely nothing relevant to the question.
He never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel.
Oh, he somehow brought it back to Ukraine. Okay.
In a million years by Hamas. You know why?
Hamas?
Because Iran was broke.
Iran?
They wouldn't let anybody do business with
Putin.
them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for
Hamas. Do you accept the peace agreement by Putin?
No terror at all.
Mr. Trump?
This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden.
Oh, damn. Did you know that?
I've had so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was
He's
president,
talking about the retaliatory attack after Soleimani was killed.
He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, We found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want, and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did.
And
he meant Putin, guys. I know he said Trump.
Did people forget like how Trump talked to Zelensky?
Yeah. There was a whole impeachment proceeding about that.
Kyiv.
Yeah.
And he in fact didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done, and they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
So nobody answered the
question.
question.
For 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
Thank you.
No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along.
If I was president,
$200 billion
there wouldn't have been a war. Putin would have invaded. It's true,
to
folks.
Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled.
Hold on a second.
People being killed so needlessly,
you just have them in a room and just like slap their heads
I
together like you're Mo Howard?
I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear.
I can't wait till they talk about
Israel. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire. Not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think...
Stephen, are you still here, by the way? I don't know if you've been...
If he takes Ukraine, what do you think happens to Poland? What do you think
Biden's really got to try to expose some kind of daylight on Israel and the Middle East. It's like,
I'm sorry, Steve. I didn't know if you were just listening. I just didn't know if you were. I don't know if you were still in the Discord chat or not.
But you guys, you're not watching the chat at this point.
Oh, I'm listening. I'm watching the Twitch chat right now. I only have so many screens I can look at the same time, so I just didn't know.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian
Nobody wants to talk about the
crisis
number
in
of Americans that were killed in the Gaza Strip
Biden,
when they were helping the Palestinians.
You've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan that put forward.
I'm going to challenge Smoke just to a fist fight.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Let me open up the...
hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one. They're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing.
I think like my summary so far is that like Biden is actually better on the substance. He's better at substantiating his arguments.
It's just the execution that is the fucking problem.
Biden just nodded.
Yeah, but his presentation is awful. Like Donald Trump's presentation is better. He doesn't have like it's not substantiating like the things he's saying well.
It's just batshit insane what he's fucking
saying. Old or something. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, no, he's stuttering over everything.
Biden needs fucking balls, man.
I want State of the Union Biden. He seemed pretty cool.
Yes.
We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support.
But despite like Biden's like presentation lapses, the points he's bringing up like actually do counter argue Trump's points really well. It's just that he's terrible at delivering them.
Right now he's kind of waffling right now. He's trying dragging it out like dude.
Greatly weakened, Hamas. Greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got
like someone find Obama's teleprompter.
Among population.
Obama's like, God damn it, Joe! What the hell happened to you 12 years ago?
We have an ocean.
Fucking saved my presidency. With
the European nations together have spent $100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us, Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100%.
This is kind of stupid though, because Biden, like, the one thing I can say about like Biden's response to Ukraine, or like the Russian incursion into Ukraine, is that he was able to rally like NATO support really quickly.
Yeah,
like that was actually like one of like the better things that he's been able to accomplish, is like to get the rest of like the Western world like rally behind Ukraine.
Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one
as expeditiously as he did.
Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
Well, Silverring, maybe Michelle Obama can run again, can run for president in 2028.
Get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO?
Is that like, oh gosh. Is that like what The View wants?
Yeah, The View endorses Michelle Obama.
It may be a big ocean, but are we ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around
Trump's
the world
doing doing his expressions. Since he can't fucking talk over him, he's doing his facial expressions.
That this kind of dislocation has a
emoji Trump.
To the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that,
no,
the problem we have is
so no, you wouldn't.
So they kill us on trade. I made great.
I like how these questions are just kind of just like foil to like tit for tat for previous things.
Their economy.
I want to hear like genuine answers to these policies, not just to use it as like a stepping stone to like kind of make a comeback for a previous fucking.
It's like it's kind of like
they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO,
it's kind of like there are no like rules. They're just like guidelines.
I said, and he's right about this. I said no, I'm not going to support.
I will say.
They asked me that question.
This may be a minority opinion of me, but I do enjoy the fact that there is no audience, so there's no like claps or like applause or cheering on bad takes.
No, same.
His time talking about the previous question.
Yeah, I know. They're just wasting fucking time. You're right.
But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody.
I think the first time they did that, remember the Biden-Bernie debate? I think that was COVID reason.
Yeah.
No, like what was it?
Some of them
there was some shit that was going on, but that was like the first time they didn't have like the audience there.
It was during COVID. No, it was COVID just hit. I remember it was a Bernie Biden debate. Everybody was like, yeah, social distancing and stuff like that. Yeah, I remember that. They actually had a lot of substance was talked about, but then again, Bernie and Biden are, veteran politicians.
And let me tell you about January 6th.
Yeah, that was our first like aging wizard battle.
We had a great quarter. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world.
You know what, Silverring, you just gave me a good idea. I'll make a soundboard, so I'll supply the boos and applause when I think they're appropriate.
The United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent.
I think Bernie's just sitting there going,
you have 80 seconds.
If they didn't shift me during the primaries, this wouldn't be a problem.
Voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again.
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, like they say, but she said, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor in writing turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see, I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech.
I go, this is a chance for Biden to kind of like pounce on this because they're talking about January 6th. Like this is kind of like a weak point for Trump.
You could feel it.
This has got to be low hanging fruit for him.
And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look,
this guy's an asshole.
I encourage those folks to go up in the Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court. And they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
He's called him a whiner.
President Biden.
Yep.
They've done to
dude, like Joe Biden's having corn pop flashbacks right now.
Hey, I love corn pop.
They ripped down.
Not gonna anything negative about corn pop.
You go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard.
Whoa, that's a pivot.
Yeah, I know. Immediately.
Let's talk about all the cities that were on fire during my presidency.
So often, peacefully patriotic. One other thing, the Unselect Committee, which is
we pivot to your over 30 felony charges. Then let's do that. If we could just pivot to whatever we want.
And Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed. And do
you remember when I cleared out D.C. so I could have a photo op with a Bible?
We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at.
All right, there you go. There you go.
And the fact of the matter is,
you should go to jail.
What he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on.
Stephen, you're a little muffled.
And all those people, every one of those
was he talking about Liz Cheney?
Over desk.
Is he talking about the what?
Statues. The idea that those people are
no, not Liz Cheney. Wait.
Come on.
It was about
the debates we had first time around. I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing, will you denounce these guys? We denounce the people we're talking about now. We denounce the people who attacked that Capitol. What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have.
I kind of want to hear that answer, though.
Of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail.
That's how you fight.
Political opponent is standing on
mental senility.
Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again.
Right
now it's a failing nation.
Jailing all my opponents.
It's going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted.
He's a son. It's a very high level.
Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. All of the death laws in the Ukrainian people. We're going to want $1 billion. Or
Stephen, you're Bane.
You're not getting $1 billion. If I had said that, that's pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. we'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting.
Thank you, President Trump.
This is
President
awesome.
Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir.
Yeah.
Well, you want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one.
Yeah, point your finger, Biden. Get him at it.
That you have a right to seek
Why can't he make eye contact with Biden?
Because you're president.
Beta.
Wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like
Who's
that before.
Alpha?
No president.
Dementia Alpha.
Like before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with. And think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night?
Her name is Stormy Daniels. God.
What were you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give you a minute,
You just say he gets the moves like an alley cat.
You experiences with strong weather.
And moved a high-ranking official at DOJ into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people. And both the civil
I need to remind everybody that all the
because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out
a lot of the
these
judges
cases,
that
they understand it better than he does. He
dismissed Trump's case of election fraud were Trump-appointed judges too. So
way up, you know that because you're reporting it.
And we took more money
than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign.
But if he's saying that like a judge's like political affiliations should like recuse them from verdicts, is he also saying that like which Supreme Court judge's wife is the one that like threw the flag upside down?
that was Alito. That was Alito.
Yeah, like even by his own standard of like political affiliation, it's like the judges that he's nominated should not be able to like rule for or against a lot of the things that will determine his freedom, or like whether or not he's immune from certain criminal charges.
Know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming out.
Biden, bring up Project 2025.
He has to face. I don't know.
This is a good fucking question for you to bring up 2025. Project 2025.
And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again. Until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas.
Okay, there you go. All right.
Torches.
All right.
And singing the same anti-Semitic
associated with the Nazis. There you go. That's how you do it.
Back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother. And they asked him, they said...
Trump shaking his head. Nah, she didn't die.
The people the ones that got killed, the ones who tried to
news.
stop it, and the ones he said, I think they're fine people on both sides. What American president...
Yeah, take me back to 2017.
Nazis coming out of fields, carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas. We're fine people. And this is a guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Yeah.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every anchor every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came
Are there
out
no
where
commercial
it's
breaks?
Debunked. It's a nonsense story.
Because we're almost an hour in.
He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden.
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought there were good people coming out of the forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president.
It was positive that Charlottesville achieved this.
And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated. We saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president has endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Okay, all right, that was good. Oh my God,
Yeah,
finally a
Joe
commercial
Biden's
break.
actually. Here's my thing. Joe Biden is actually really killing it on the substance. His delivery is lacking, but he's like actually chokeholding in Trump when it comes to like the substance of like the points they're making. Trump, of course, like it seems like he's like 20 years older. He's really floundering when it comes to like comebacks and like, you know, like steel manning his own positions. Like I think Biden's kind of killing it. The teleprompter, like the transcribed version. I wonder if it's going to be kind of like the JFK Nixon debate. Where people who watch the debate are going to be like, JFK looked better, JFK won. And not that anybody listens to radio anymore, but I wonder if it would be the same thing where like if people just listened to like Joe Biden's points, if they would have been like analogous to the JFK Nixon debate where they would be like, oh, Nixon won. Because there was that disparity during like the Nixon JFK debate where who saw it on television thought JFK won, people who listened on radio thought that Nixon won. But,
I think what the average American right now is looking is like, yo, this Biden, I don't know if he's all here right now, but holy fucking shit, do we really want this other guy back for another fucking term as president?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think through the lens of like people who are just like watching it like maybe more apolitical than we are, like or who aren't as dialed in. Mm-hmm. I think Biden's coming across as being like much more of a statesman, even though he's stuttering.
Yeah.
And I don't think that like Trump's claims or rebuttals are surviving, like personally. Like I might be wrong, but I'm really curious to see like the polls coming of this.
Okay, so with this debate format, you know, at one hand, Trump's not able to interrupt Biden, but after seeing some of the responses, it's like, does Trump have to slip up Biden because it seems like he's tripping on his own accord here, and I don't know if that's gonna hurt or help him in terms of how people will think of him, but I will say I'm thinking of the first debate 2020 and how much of a shit show that was, and I will say that in general this debate is definitely better than that. I know it's kind of a low bar to set, but I don't know. I've seen thinking back in 2020, I'm looking at a sort of a drastic change in Biden's composure and how he looks versus what Trump is. And I don't know how much that is going to resonate with the average voter here in this country. So, I don't know. We'll see. I feel like...
I just think Trump does well with people who don't know anything.
Yeah.
So the people who have seen Trump before and remember stuff, it's the same old garbage from Trump. It's the same stuff he was saying when he was president, or you know what I mean? Like,
there are people right now. You're and the chat's right. Like, there are people right now that don't understand that Biden has a stutter. Like, he's not like absolutely completely senile. It's just like he's had a stutter his whole life, and
you know, and I think it's I kind of think that like the same Trump showed up this time for this debate as he did 4 years ago, but I think he has even more legal and political baggage.
He's got some. I was gonna say he's got a lot of baggage on him now.
Yeah, so it's even if Trump is the same person as he was 4 years ago, I think that he's in a much weaker position now, and that he has like even more Sisyphean tasks to make his case to be elected.
Yeah.
I think Biden benefits from this debate format. It's not going to get like, shouted over by the crowd, but
that's true.
Second term. President Biden, while black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes. And black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate
there's an echo?
of
Hang on,
white
let me see if I can
Americans.
fix it.
What do you say to black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
I think we get an echo when Stephen unmutes himself.
Oh, okay.
Small black businesses that have been started at any time in history. Number two, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're providing housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. In addition to that,
I want to hear like Trump try to make a case for like more Americans after he tries like prevent them from moving into his apartments.
I love him.
Have to make relative to childcare.
No, but like he literally tried to make it so that African Americans could not move into his apartments.
Did you know that
Is he going to
had a black person head of HUD?
Cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who provided had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest was forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
I love black people.
He caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right. It's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled.
So I want to say that inflation is actually due to the price gouging of big businesses taking advantage of a pandemic.
A country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his.
I will say from my own experience working in the insurance industry,
thrown out the window.
Companies like with the pandemic, they try to make up for lost profit during the pandemic.
His big kill on the black people.
That's their attitude.
Millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now. And it could be 8.
What are black jobs?
And even 20 million people taking black jobs.
I'm not totally.
What are black jobs?
You haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see.
It's a search on Pornhub.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Jesus fucking Christ!
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back.
What are black jobs? You need to ask him that, please, Biden.
Yeah, Biden should just ask him that until he answers.
At the time, there were no jobs. Provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who are in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, the ACA has increased. I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried
I was going to say, follow through with the fact that you want to eliminate the ACA.
And they're going to try again if they win. You find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across
hottest
the
year
country
so
are
far.
confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost
are the police black jobs
in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the
I really
1990s,
miss
we
when they
can't
used to
forget
be
that.
able to,
Super predators was
make
his
people
term.
answer the new
And he called it
question.
to them,
You know?
and they're taking great offense at it, and now they see it happening.
Oh, he didn't
But
answer
when they see
anything.
what I did for criminal justice reform,
He's going
and for the
back.
historically black colleges
Doesn't
and
want to answer it,
universities,
so we'll pivot
where
to
I
something
funded
else.
them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers.
That's a huge lie. What I've read about opportunity zones is that only
they're saying ever,
private
where
equity and
ever the best
investors successful, and no one else.
Much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started.
They're going to take the black jobs? What are black jobs?
He's saying he's not giving Mexican people black jobs. Wait until he lets all these Mexican people take black jobs.
So
the Mexicans taking black jobs and making them Mexican jobs.
And I want absolutely clean air. And we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever.
We had oxygen. We had water.
We were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever.
What?
And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I hired Scott Pruitt. You all remember Scott Pruitt? He was sued 13 times by the EPA, hated the EPA, hated environmental regulations. Great guy for the environment, Scott Pruitt.
Climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges.
President Trump walked away from the Paris Climate Accord.
Black universities and colleges, because they don't have those. They don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. They just don't have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord.
There you go. Thank you. God damn.
I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change. And he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion. And China nothing.
Well,
Russia
it was going to cost the fossil fuel industry.
It was a ripoff of the United States, and I ended it because I didn't want
because
to
the fossil fuel industry pays you
horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it, and it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying
you guys took care of
all
yourselves?
our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything if we're not able to? The United States can't get its pollution under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps. There's thousands of young people will learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends
By
meet.
the way, that was
Many older
funny.
Americans, Social Security
That
provides
was
a
for like
critical lifeline.
politeness
President
going
Biden, if
down the
nothing
tubes or
is done for
something.
Social Security,
That's the last thing
will
I'm
have
saying.
their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name
That's
tonight
how I'm
one
hanging up from
specific
now
step
on.
that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
Yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time of the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I've been proposing that everybody, they pay, the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the
So, you know,
cost of Social
the Republicans hate
Security
the
to
idea
anybody
of progressive
under $400,000
taxation, but
after
Trump
that
doesn't
begin
seem to have to like
begin
take
to pay their fair
responsibility
share
for that, you
by
know?
increasing from
Well, no, he doesn't
1%
take
beyond
responsibility for
to be
anything.
able to guarantee the program for life.
I mean, like,
So you still
Scott, I
have
don't know
82
if you
seconds
pay
left. Are
attention,
there any
yeah.
other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one?
Yeah,
enough?
you just fund
that
it.
one enough will keep it solvent, but
Yeah.
the biggest
Lift
thing
the
we'll do
fucking
is
cap
we defeat
over
the
like
plan because he wants
$150,000.
to get rid
Seriously.
of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare, both times. And and if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that he, I believe, supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health
Look at me.
coverage today.
I
Look at me.
need
I'm going to
protection.
protect myself, no
You
problem.
see, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where we talk about education for black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants by another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years.
Is he saying that he's not a
I've never
politician
seen
still,
anybody
even
lie
after
like this guy.
serving one
He
term as
lies.
president?
I've never seen it. He could look you in the face. About so many other things too.
I mean, does that mean he's
And
willing
we
to give up
mentioned the
his
laptop, we
immunity?
mentioned Russia,
Yeah,
Russia,
right.
Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our
But he's
hospitals.
like admitting the
They're
fact
taking
that like the
place
ones
of
that
our
do end up
citizens
on it
and
are also the ones
what
that
they're
pay
doing
into
to
it.
The VA, to our veterans is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these
Yeah,
people
but
are living
it's
in
a lie.
luxury
Like, for
hotels.
the most part,
He
migrants
doesn't
and
know
stuff,
what
they're
he's
not
doing, and
they're not
it's
paying
really
into it.
coming
Eventually,
back.
some
I've never seen
undocumented
such
folks do
anger
pay in,
in our
but like,
country before.
it's just complete BS coming from
The
Trump.
idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it.
You couldn't let it be a way for
Number
Biden to
two,
bring up
the
McCain. You know, he
idea
really
that we're gonna be
disrespected
in a
McCain. You
situation
know,
where
Yeah.
all these millions and millions,
True.
the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world, the reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increase and go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much.
Yeah, but they were all
Child
Jews, so,
care,
yeah.
which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child.
Or
For
an
many
arm and a leg.
families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the
God damn
general
it.
got fired because he was no
I-
good. And if he said that, that's why he made
question,
it up.
Dude, I want to know.
People that said I didn't say
Listen,
it,
childcare cost is like extreme. Like, people are wondering why people aren't having kids nowadays. It's because of the fucking cost to raise a child.
He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good.
I guess we're not going to know.
You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people.
He has the authority to fire everyone who he thinks is not good at
This
will.
guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody?
Did you fire
anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world?
Why? Because they didn't fucking put kids in cages?
Like people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions. Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed?
The majority of those migrants
Joe,
are not.
Our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit.
Okay, Biden,
like
now's your chance to talk about how he had a
borders.
deal, and
he wants our
Trump
country to either
did not
be
want the
destroyed
Republicans
or
to
he
vote
wants
on
to pick
it.
up those people
Perfect time to
as
bring that up.
voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak.
Stock
no
image of
someone
landing on the moon.
Nobody. Number one. Yeah. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up or go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history, one through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men.
Yeah. We had a child care tax credit that Joe Manchin fucking killed, that you let him kill.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand.
I'm not going to answer that, but I just want to say he's an idiot.
They rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad.
He's a turd sandwich.
I'll show you.
Not me.
And they rate me
I'm the
one
best
of the best,
sandwich.
Okay. And
no poopy on my sandwich.
4 years, I will be the best. I think
what was the South Park thing? It was like a
douche, giant douche turd sandwich. Yeah.
Like us. Nobody ever got taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes.
Whose taxes are we raising? Whose taxes are we raising? I'm okay with.
Does he mean
I'm okay with
by a multiplicity of 4?
Everybody has to pay 4 times.
2 times for the absolute wealthiest people. But progressive taxation beyond like $1 million a year or something.
It's like, who are we taxing? That's going to be raised. I'm kind of okay with that.
The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Everybody knows it. I love it.
Just perfect in the chat. Just so you understand, I have the last word on this.
Will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming in the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that are very important. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class. The middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You had the largest deficit of any president in American history.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any
I think how
progress.
Trump's looking at it.
We are the
I don't
lowest trade
believe
deficit
that
with
that's
China
true
since
because I live in my own
2010.
world.
Thank you,
We're at the
President Biden.
highest. You lost
Thank you,
100%.
President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term.
Homosexuality.
The opioid crisis.
Oh, sorry.
For both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy.
Just answer
We
the
have the
fucking
largest
question.
deficit
God
with
fucking
China.
damn it, dude.
He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets
Oh my
money
God.
from
You
China.
know what? We
He
should have
got-
had a
so I think
bingo.
there's a
It
thing
is
to deal with him
10:20.
someday.
He
But
finally
you notice
fucking
he
said
never took
China.
out my tariffs because we bring
China.
so much money with the
Definitely a
tariffs that I
drinking
imposed
game.
on
Yeah.
China.
That we didn't capitalize
I'm
on.
sorry. We
Oh,
didn't
Because it's too
capitalize.
much money.
Next debate,
It's
we'll do a drinking
tremendous.
game out of
And
this.
Yeah,
so
like
it's
I
so
was thinking we should do like
it
a
was
drinking
more to
game or
come.
something just to get
But he
people to
hasn't
like,
done
Sorry,
choke the
guys.
water.
We could have
He
made this
doesn't
more
cut the tariffs
entertaining. I'm
because
sorry.
he can't because it's too much
Ah,
money.
that's
But
not
he's
your.
got
That's
the
not anyone's
largest
fault.
deficit in the history of our country.
Well,
and he's got the worst.
I got like
The worst
apprehensive because
situation
like I
with
was
China.
worried about like
China's gonna
streaming
own
a
us if you
presidential
keep
debate
allowing
when
them
like CNN
to
was
do
so
what they're
adamant
doing
about
to us as a
trying to
country.
strike
They
down
are
streams.
killing
But
us
so
as a
far,
country,
like
Joe,
I'm on
and you
Twitch
can't
right
let
now.
that
We have
happen.
not
You're
got
destroying
struck
our
at all.
country.
So
So, President Trump,
We know
with
for next time.
67 seconds
Yeah, I know.
left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction
just
right
ignore
now
what
who
he
are
fucking
struggling to
said.
get the
Oh,
treatment
he's still
they
on
need?
Trump. God damn it.
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border.
One sec, I'll be back.
Yep.
Started
well,
to
I
increase.
knew
We
he was
got
going to tie
great
this into the
argue
border.
What the
They
certain dog,
do
it's the
things
most
like push
incredible
back against
thing that you've ever
factors,
seen,
that's
the way they can
bullshit.
spot it.
Yeah.
We did a lot. And we
Well,
had,
no,
we were
no,
getting
I don't think
very
either of these
low
people are going to
numbers,
bring up the
very,
fact
very
that
low numbers.
the reason
Then
why we
he
have an
came along.
opioid
The
crisis is
numbers,
because of
have
the
you seen the
capitalization
numbers
on
now? It's
know,
not only
opioid
the
drugs.
18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl, these big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together.
Oh, God, thank God he brought up the deal that
more
Trump
fentanyl machines,
fucking told the Republicans to vote against.
Be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically. No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico.
What does this have to
not
do with
catch and
drugs?
release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say a hostage, now we have a hostage.
until
Wall
Jake
Street
Carey
Journal
calls,
reporter.
that's just this thing.
Yeah.
I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago. But Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases.
Yeah, what
where
is
we
it
paid
got
$6
away?
billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden,
You're both
you would be
incredibly old and
86
stupid.
at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. The whole idea of computer chips. We used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas.
Biden will be 90.
So I went
by the time if he gets reelected.
That's
the age he'll be when he gets out of office.
Here in the United States, and guess what? Those fabs they call that to build these chips. Those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them, and there's billions. About $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs.
Well, look at those microchip jobs.
From all over
Could use a change in career.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea
this guy's an asshole. Just call him an asshole. Come on.
This failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies and those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, who he sends love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities?
Biden's a loser.
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I
aced both of them. I was very smart in these tests.
He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions.
They had really pretty colors. I picked out all the colors.
Tests. I took physical exams.
I could totally take kindergarten again and pass.
We knock on wood wherever we may have wood. That I'm in very good health.
There's the camera TV.
2 club championships, not even
190
2
pounds.
club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to.
I need to remind everybody I have a really good brain.
He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good shape as I was.
Look, I've seen you leading, man. I don't know.
But I'm in as good a shape as I was.
You're both out of shape old men. Let's not talk about physical fitness here.
And you know what? If I didn't do well,
I'm not voting for somebody based on their physique.
Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's
don't bring up Dr. Ronnie, the pill pusher. You're bringing up Dr. Ronnie Jackson.
And one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you, President Biden.
You can see he is 6'5" and only 225 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what you're. Anyway, let's take a look.
Anyway, nobody can hear you, so whatever.
Take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was.
I hope the next debate is just settled on the golf course.
And by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can?
Yeah. Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah,
you think handicap of all.
I almost had a score better than Kim Jong-un. It was Kim Jong-il, hole in one every course, almost beat him. You try and beat me with that record.
To a specific concern
I love his son.
that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
No.
And you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable.
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you,
President Trump, will you do another January 6th if you lose?
A small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, It was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is
totally not responsible for January 6th.
And I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent because he indicted me because I
broke the law. And I didn't think I broke the law.
I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so.
The only reason I'm here is because I don't want to do jail time, and the only way it can stop me is a second presidency.
We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation, and we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to
He just
World
criticized
War
him for ending
than anybody
Afghanistan.
can
The one
imagine.
Yeah, I know. Seriously. What
was
the
like,
fuck?
his wars will never end. God
And
damn.
Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea. All
My
of
best
these,
friend.
Putin, they don't respect him.
I miss my
They don't
friend. I want to
fear
write
him.
letters to him
They
again.
have nothing
Vote
going
for
with
me.
this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want
Whoa.
World War III. Let
Serious, dude.
him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all, and required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said.
God damn it. Just answer the fucking
Russia.
question.
They took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden.
Wait, what?
They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing.
Chat,
from
they are
this
wearing
man
probably
right here.
Depend
That's a war
diapers,
that
not
should
like
have
baby
never
diapers,
started.
all
It would
right?
have never started, ever, with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this?
Give him the
He's got us in
Donbass
such a bad
immediately.
position right now with Ukraine and Russia. Because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad.
Wow.
Oh,
They've
Jesus
lost
Christ.
so many people.
It's a weird
They've
claim.
lost those gorgeous cities with the
It's
golden
Ukraine's
domes
fault
that are
Russia
1,000
invaded.
years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President Trump,
president.
the question was, will you accept the results
Jesus
of the election?
Christ, just make him
regardless
answer
of
it.
who wins, yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely.
So no.
I would have much
So no.
rather accepted
No.
these. But the fraud and everything else was
It's no.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week. Or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did.
You were totally going to fucking run again. Shut the fuck up.
Come on.
You fucking liar.
And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven up
Lock her
to a
up.
very high level
Numbers?
because the
No
people
political
understand it.
opponent stuff, but lock up
Let's see what
Hillary
your numbers
Clinton.
are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued. You appealed.
call him a big
appealed to
baby.
courts all across the country.
Yeah.
Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local. None. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea, if you lose,
Just
the
call him
game,
a big
you accept
baby.
it,
You're a big baby
you can't
man.
stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential
All right.
debate.
All right.
God damn it! Imagine how much easier this would be if it was even just like Obama on this debate stage, right? I don't like Obama much at all, but god damn it, like if Democrats aren't making this as easy as possible for like fascism to gain like a more permanent foothold.
All right, David, hold the fort. Give an analysis while I take a piss. All right, hang on.
Yeah, like I don't know, like I don't know how many people we have like watching and stuff, but I think on the substance, Biden's doing pretty well. Obviously, his problem is that he can't communicate the substance because he's apparently afflicted. So, like, I think for like policy wonks, kind of know what he's like gesturing vaguely towards. They could say like, "Oh yeah, he's trying to make a good point, but he's not always landing the good points." Donald Trump is saying a lot of things that Biden can and has been successfully responding to, but Biden successfully responds to those things on a basis of substance and not performatively. Biden performatively is a shadow of the person he was 4 years ago. And Biden 4 years ago was a shadow of the person he was in 2012 or 2016. So this is really, it almost seems like if somebody were to be superstitious, then they would probably say something along the lines of like, the universe is conspiring to make it as easy as possible for Donald Trump to win. Because we had to like nominate and basically insist upon the weakest candidate available to contend with the greatest threat of democracy that we've had to experience within our lifetimes. It's really like a perfect storm, like almost like, you know, like the fates conspired to basically erode at our democratic institutions this way. But it's really sad. Sad stuff. Sad story. We'll see.
All right, I'm back. David, great analysis. Thank you for providing that. Yeah.
Could you hear it? Like over like there's a live stream and then there was the piss stream. Like
no, I didn't want to take it. No, I didn't want people to hear my piss. No.
I don't know which one was more audible because like our volume is really low. I'm just kidding. I don't know. But
oh yeah, so guys, yeah, what how do you feel about the first presidential debate of 2024?
How do you feel? I just kind of talked about it. So like, what do you think?
Okay, well, I guess I will say that I'm a little bit lackluster. Then again, they are hosting one rather early. So I hope that as a result, there's going to be more opportunities for more debates. Until then, there's a lot that will happen between, you know, say now and October when, like, you know, it's crunch time. So I guess we'll see. Can't wait to hear. Yeah, I can't wait to deal with all the fucking spin that all sides are gonna fucking take on these debates. Particularly, I can't wait to hear the Republican cope or conservative right-wing cope about all this.
They're gonna be so like many highlight reels of like Joe Biden stuttering over himself.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're gonna sell this as. That Joe Biden is just mentally incompetent, too senile to be president, and that's pretty much all.
He's not making it. Yeah, he's not making it easy to like challenge those criticisms
either.
We're going to
begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit, number one. He's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for the ability
Please don't trip up so
us
much
to
on
be
this.
able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along, where it's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do. All he does is make
I'm
our
sorry.
country
What
unsafe by allowing
would you
millions
call
and
you
millions of
describe
people
this
to pour
country
in.
like this?
Our military doesn't
Is
respect
country's
him. We
going
look
down?
like
We're not going to have a
fools in
country anymore. Is
Afghanistan.
that not complaining?
We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This
Rioting?
Is
What does that even mean? The Palestinians are what? They're rioting all over the place by dying? What?
Exploding because of you. Because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military.
I certainly don't
the
respect
largest
Trump.
tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut
Why
the
is he part
regulations
of
that
putting
gave jobs. But he's putting a
regulations?
lot of those
Just
regulations
public
back
health.
on. All of the things
Well,
that
a lot of
we've
those
done,
people
nobody's
finance this
ever-
campaign.
Never seen anything like, even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try
We've
space
got a
age
job, we're making
materials
money,
instead of
but
going to
our
Asia
water is
or going
poisoning us
to
and we're going to
Europe and trying
die.
to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of
That's
the VA.
ridiculous.
So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full.
I thought he was talking about Biden for a second. Stay with us, Biden.
Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
How can you split hairs like that? So you're not going to reform or change the VA system, but you're not going to do single payer. So what is Trump's solution? He's just so full of shit.
It's not
the solution was always just to get rid of Obamacare. It was always like vindictive. Pretty much everything he's like ever tried to attempt politically has been for the sake of some kind of like vindictive aspiration. Now it's because he can't stand having lost. That's why he's doing this all over. And the same way that he couldn't withstand Obama's feathering criticisms during the correspondence dinner. It's just revenge based. It's revenge porn. He's revenge happening right now.
It's ridiculous.
What do you guys think? What do you think, Steve?
I mean, Trump just relentlessly lies. He just says his same old stuff. He puts his best foot forward. There's no honesty at all. I think Biden did fine, but just in terms of tone of voice and stuff, he seemed kind of sickly or kind of weak. And
you see the weight of the presidency taking its toll on him.
Yep.
Anderson, this was a game-changing debate in the sense.
I'm trying to.
Talking about the Democrats on substance, they win, but is that enough to really win?
I'm trying to put on the hat of the average American that is not as politically informed as the rest of us, and I'm trying to think because they're not really looking at policy that's more demeanor for them, and they're thinking who has the best mental facilities, and it's really a pick between somebody who, if you do not know has a stutter problem, seems to have an extreme mental decline, and another person who just is living in his own fucking world. He just exists in his own fucking world, and everywhere anything else is a lie to him.
Yeah. None of them, and a lot of Republicans. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear to anybody who's saying that Trump has a much firmer command of his mental faculties, and that he can
articulate a point, but the point's just fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that performatively, Trump came across a lot sharper, a lot more responsive, but Biden was surprisingly substantive with his rebuttals. The delivery was not great, but it was substantive, and there were some things that Trump clearly could not respond adequately to. I think even to people who are more apolitical, but at the same time, they're going to be these fucking highlight reels of Joe Biden, just bubbling over his words,
stuttering, mixing up words. Yeah. That's what they're gonna run
and
with.
He did, yeah, and I don't know, it's hard to say.
And to be fair, they tried to do this with him in 2020, and it didn't really work. So
I think Biden. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying that they tried to do this before with him in 2020. It didn't really work out, and if that's all they have in their arsenal, that's kind of pathetic on their part.
It is. I think Biden made it harder for them to characterize him that way in 2020. I think honestly, he's a shadow of his 2020 self now. I think 2020 Biden would have done a much better job than 2024 Biden in this debate. So I guess it just comes down to, did Biden do such a performatively worse job during this debate that those attacks against him back then will still not matter now? Or is it that he's clearly so much more senile now that I don't know, those attacks against his mental faculties will be more potent? What do you think?
Well, I think people are looking at, because this is an election right now where this is kind of I think the first time in presidential history where both of them are technically incumbents running against each other. So they both have, as opposed to 2020, they both have to have a record that is either going to help them or kind of be like an anchor around their neck. So they're both going to probably prod at that.
Yeah.
I think that in terms of, it's been 4 years. People need to remember that, the end of Trump's presidency was abysmal. It was chaotic.
Yeah, it was.
For them to I think the message that if any opponent against Trump wants to reiterate is is to ask them is this what you want again? We barely saved ourselves out of a first Trump term. Do you really think a second one's going to be any better? And what's the best response that the Trump campaign has to offer? That this guy's really fucking old. I mean, things have. I'm not saying that things have been perfect, but things have definitely been more stable as opposed to what was happening under Trump.
Well, Trump gave us essentially 3 October surprises last time.
Yeah,
where he contracted COVID and he was clearly visibly suffering from that. Had a terrible debate performance, and he publicly said that he was going to get rid of unemployment benefits.
Yeah.
And that really fucked him up. But here, if you're watching what CNN's saying, I love how Dems are only now saying we have a problem with Biden. They're concerned about Biden now. It's how could they not have listened to all of the reasonable and incontrovertible feedback they'd been receiving from more knowledgeable sources that Biden was always going to be a fucking problem.
David, I'm seeing in David Sorora a tweet where it's everyone right now who are for Bernie's primary campaign against Biden, and it's a gif from what's it, the world-ending movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, and he's like, "We tried to tell you this whole fucking time. It's right there."
Yeah, true. Oh God. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Dems are saying now we have a problem after Biden's. Oh God, they're so.
I mean,
the other thing I'd say with Biden though is that there weren't a lot of younger options. Like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie would have been pretty old by now, so they didn't have great younger options.
Well, I will. Yeah. Speaking of younger people, I will say that by and large, younger people prefer Biden over Trump, despite all the misgivings of Biden. And I think what we've seen in past trends of elections is you have to turn out the youth vote is more important now than before. And you could see like how in 2022 this quote unquote red wave was stunted by just the youth turning out and voting against Republicans. So, if the Democrats can like lean on that, then I think they have a chance still.
Van Jones is like, I love Biden, but he didn't do well at all. Here's another funny thing: is like the polling has already like indicated that even if you just substituted Joe Biden with like generic Democratic presidential candidate, yeah, they would poll much better than Donald Trump. Of course, like that would fluctuate, that would change as soon as like that generic Democratic candidate actually had to be responsive to like political climate and like any controversies they might have to weather. Anything like that, but it's just that like even somebody like Gavin Newsom, like as like detestable as he is a lot of the time, would have been so much more effective at driving the point home and keeping fascism at bay. And like Biden,
you're saying stop Democrat would have done all right.
Yeah,
any generic Democrat under the age of 60 would have done bad. Yeah, good. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's I guess that's what the polling has indicated as well.
Speaking of polling, like it is like almost pretty much neck and neck, and like that should not be the fucking case. Biden is running against a criminal. He's running against a criminal who tried to fucking orchestrate a coup in 2021. How is this so close?
And like, can you imagine Biden's poll numbers going up after this debate? Like, I don't know.
I guess we kind of have to wait for that kind of settle. I hope that it does change the polls for the better, but I'm also optimistic that there are going to be more debates further down the line, and we talked about how Obama really kind of flubbered his first debate. It was really embarrassing, but it did incentivize and motivate him to really pick up the pace in the next two, and he really kind of knocked those ones out of the park. So I mean, if the Biden team could like get some shit together between now and the next debate, okay, I think that there's a lot of opportunity there.
You need to do this.
But I wonder like if it's something that's as addressable as like Obama's shortcoming was. Like all they had to be was like, hey, Obama, like show like some enthusiasm, and like he was still young enough.
Yeah, I know. It is better when you got the 30-year difference.
Yeah,
like,
with Biden, it might be like asking somebody in a wheelchair to like stand up for themselves, literally.
Okay,
I just wonder like if
Mr. President, after your physical therapy, do you think maybe we could probably do more debate coaching?
Yeah. So like,
they love Joe Biden for kicking him out. They don't want him back. They came into this debate nervous that Biden was in a weak position.
I'm trying not to be doomer about this, but it's I hopefully my mood will change at the next debate. I don't even know when the next debate's going to be held. Hopefully it's going to be held like sometime in August after the conventions of either party, but we'll see. This is like I think this is like the first time also like this is a presidential debate that has occurred before either party's like convention where they officially nominate the person. So like this is like I think
a lot of that's I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Please continue.
I was just gonna say, like, I think like this debate kind of just helps solidifies the fact that, like, yeah, these guys are going to be both either party's nominee, and like it's just a formality at this point. Like, I don't fucking know. Also, keep in mind that like Biden is holding his Democratic primary in Chicago at what is what's going on a major conflict in Israel and Palestine, and a lot of it's going to be based off of like online like interaction. And like I have to remind myself, like, oh yeah, why is that the case again? Because yeah, he probably doesn't want another situation like what happened in '68.
Right. But you know, like it's like when it came to like the Republican nomination, like at least they had a primary. Like it's like it's like so many of like the Democratic candidates were like screwed out of like debates that they should have had, you know, entitlement to against Biden. But the DNC really did rig the conditions of this primary against new candidates who wanted to challenge Joe Biden.
Yeah, they didn't want it. They were just like, no, we're going with it.
Yeah.
You know, he's our guy, and that, you know, don't ask any questions, don't complain. Yeah.
So this is why it's so delicious. After all the DNC tomfoolery against primary, that now they're experiencing aggressive panic. To CNN.
Yeah, it's like buyer's remorse right now. Like I just
man, I know you're speaking from your heart.
They set themselves up for this pitfall, for this chasm that they're falling into right now.
It's a very bittersweet sort of like taste, because like you know, it does feel good to gloat about that, but it's like also at the same time like there's a lot at stake here, because like as much as like, you know, I want to tell like, you know, Democratic establishment people like I told you so, but like at the same time like, well, we really don't have any other option at this point, so we have to kind of fucking roll with it, I guess. Hopefully Robert Kennedy can siphon off enough fucking crazy conservative votes from Trump, but I don't know. That's kind of like, it's kind of whimsical on my part.
Well, I just wanted to say that there should have been an anti-war candidate. There should have been a like pro-Palestine flat-out candidate. Marianne Williamson wasn't really that to the nines. There should have been an anti-war candidate, and the Democrats just didn't allow there to be.
No, they stifled it. They stifled it. Yeah.
Palestine, you know?
Yeah. She said to me, the time that when that war broke out is also not good either. It's just Democrats truly believe that he is an what do I say this? If COVID-19 is the thing that caused that hindered Trump's re-election the most, for Biden, it's going to be Palestine and Israel.
Republicans who did not want to vote for Donald Trump, who do not want to vote for Donald Trump, who are also panicking tonight. I heard from one who said, "This is scary."
Also, I still didn't get the answer of what are black jobs. I guess I'll never get that answer. I don't know.
They're just like
I'll never get the answer of what are black jobs and what are getaways. What are getaways?
I told you guys which search engine to use to answer that question.
Tonight in terms of the panic that is out there.
Guys, I already have coming into this debate.
You're a real spink banger.
Support for third-party candidates. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. highest. And then Jill Stein and Cornel West.
There's
it's close, but if you add it all, into the teens,
they should just honestly, they should just tweak the stipulations to allow presidential candidates to debate, just to put Robert Kennedy up there, just so he can maybe siphon off some conservative votes, like kind of do like a Ross Perot sort of thing against Bill Clinton and George H.W. Bush.
Apparently on TikTok there are some of these like quasi-debate type answer questions things with the third-party candidates.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure Trump's going to agree.
Yeah, with Jill Stein and also RFK. Yeah.
I just want to say one thing.
Oh, so are you saying that they're hosting their own little separate deal?
Yeah, they're like being asked questions by some journalist person or whatever. Yeah.
The ticket.
TikTok enjoying the last relevancy before he gets banned in the United States.
Yes.
Is not a guy who's going to inspire people he did not show.
But anyways, it's been about a couple hours, so I'm probably going to take off pretty soon.
Yeah,
but this is fun.
I wanna. Yeah, we're kind of at the end. I really don't want to listen to stupid pundits have their opinions when
this
my
is
opinions
that's
are
David
bad.
Axelrod, right? That's old Obama, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know it's been a while, but thanks everybody for tuning in. I know I've been busy with married life and shit like that, but it's good to do this again, especially for something like this.
He should have turned the page.
Steven, thanks for popping in. Really, yeah, it's good. It's good to finally hear from you. I think it's the first time I ever heard from you.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
What
Yeah.
you're saying.
But yeah, we gotta.
Very few
We gotta do this again soon for sure.
I'm down.
Yeah, hopefully sometime next week. I know. Well, I know everybody's off probably the 4th of July, but I'll be busy. But I know that the next Friday, I'm free to do something.
Losing his train of thought, and they're going to remember that
just let me
everything
know.
I thought I knew, but
I might be debating a white nationalist next Friday.
What? Really? What, you want to host that? What, you want to bring it here?
We're not the candidate.
Yeah, we can if you want.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. All right, we can do that. All right. And then, yeah, all right, cool. That's great. All right, so thanks for everybody for watching. Yeah, I gotta, yeah, I got a lot of shit to do too. So yeah, I have to end it also. But thanks everybody for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And
yep,
we'll see you all again next time. All right, take care.
See you guys.
Bye bye.
Steven.
From the moment that they got out, it was hard to watch. I had